On the Rec Yard, Women's Prison Podcast, where we are live on the Rec Yard every Wednesday night. Tunchi, we made it.
We made it. Hallelujah.
Looks
Amen.
like we made it. Look how
that's
far
Shania.
we've come now, baby. So it is Wednesday night, and we are live on the Rec Yard Women's Prison Podcast. I'm Marcy Marie.
I'm Tunchi.
I am sorry that we missed you all last week. We
It's a
had
lot.
airport shenanigans.
Didn't have
Real
airport shenanigans this weekend, but Marcy put together a nice, what do you call it?
montage.
Montage of all of our moments in Colorado, and we'll stream that separately. But we certainly want y'all to see how amazing Chanel was. But yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of travel over the past 2 weeks, but we made it tonight.
We did make it tonight, and I'm so happy because we certainly missed you all last week. You are our community and our absolutely favorite spot to be right here on the Rec Yard with you tonight. We are talking about the dangerous and, quite frankly, deadly temperatures inside of Texas prisons. It's going to be a pretty deep episode. Before we get to that, let's do a weekly recap. So,
Woo!
yeah, a lot.
Well,
Really,
let's recap Colorado first.
Well, the trip was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The trip was awesome, right? So we were there representing Lioness with our sister Chanel, aka Peaches, for those of you who did time on the Dr. Lane Murray unit, Jones. And she was on a panel. We were presenting our research project that we did with Texas A&M. And it was around how natural disasters and emergencies affect women in particular, affect incarcerated women's mental health. And I think that it was a success for sure.
Yeah. It was really great. It's a huge conference. People were excited about our research. And also, like, you got to hang out with your kiddos, and I got to hang out with Peaches and the cub. And so we did a lot at the pool. We ate a lot. We hung out a lot. It was, you had some travel woes, though. You got stuck at the
Hey, my daughters that were 8 months old and 1 year old when I got locked up and are now a freshman and sophomore in high school. I don't know how that happened. They had never been on an airplane, and we had never taken any kind of trip together. So it was like really exciting for that. And I think that they dug the plane ride there. Now on the way back, and I don't want to go into all the details. This is before the IT crash.
Right.
This didn't even have to do with that. We got on the airplane and it was a hydraulic leak, and we had to get off the airplane, and they postponed it all day until the end of the day when it was canceled, and my girls were camped out in the airport. We just made our own little space. And hey, as far as being stuck in the airport with a bougie mid 20-year-old daughter and 2 teenage daughters can be, right? Because it could have gone very badly for us. But everybody was actually in a pretty good mood. We enjoyed spending time together. But man, by the time we got home, all the way like 48 hours after we were supposed to get home, by the time we got home, is that right? 48, no, 24. I don't know, a long time after we actually were supposed to. Yeah, because then we went back to the airport and that flight was delayed. It was off the chain. And then I was home for a day and went to the airport to go to Atlanta. And my flight was 5 times. It was postponed. And this is after the IT deal. And then it got canceled. So my prison daughter, Niala, who you all might remember, she, or Thomas, if you were locked up in Lane Murray, she she didn't get to fly and go to Atlanta for her birthday. We were disappointed. So, anyway, but you made it to Atlanta.
I did. I did. And there was, half of the guests that were coming to Pamela Wynn, an incredible advocate in Georgia that works really hard to bring dignity to incarcerated pregnant folks who are incarcerated. She was amazing. It was a really cool experience. We got to talk about our stories. You and Niala were able to zoom in. It wasn't quite the same as being in person, but you still got to participate a little bit. And then the next day, me and Lauren Johnson and the smaller group, Christy Puckett and several other really incredible ladies,
I
we had
feel
a
like you're
spa
name
day.
dropping.
I am name dropping.
You're
So
like
what?
throwing all
So
these
what?
power advocates, these powerhouse, powerful women, boss bitch
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
You're throwing their names out there like nothing. Pamela Wynn, Christy Puckett, Lauren Johnson.
Councilwoman Brown. So
Yes.
I'm just saying, yeah, I am name dropping because I'm always very honored to be in the space with them. They are incredible, powerful women, and a lot of fun and very funny. And we went to the spa. We went to a fancy hotel. You may have seen pictures of me in a robe.
Listen, I feel like you're not that great at posting a plethora of pictures, but the time that you were at a spa on truly a relaxing day where I was supposed to be there and couldn't be there because my flight got canceled, you posted, I don't know, 50 pictures, it felt like.
Now, don't get over dramatic. I did a video of Lauren coming out of the water all slow motion. It was nice though. But y'all, I got stuck at the airport and my flight got canceled. I called Marcy. It all worked out. Let me just say that. But thank God for the women in my life that keep me calm. I said, I'm turning it. I told Sarah, I was texting Sarah, I said, I'm quickly turning into my dad right now. And it's frightening and ugly. But it all worked out. Got on a plane, got home at midnight last night, and my kitty, look, y'all, there she is, back there. She's usually not on camera, but she's been up my ass. She slept on my
She
neck.
missed you. You
She
didn't come
loves
home when you said you were going to be home.
I know. I
That's what
know.
happened. So yeah, it was a lot. It was fun and stressy and all of those things. And we're glad to be home today, right? I cannot not I can't start the show. We're talking about the dangerous temperatures inside Texas prisons. I can't start the show without telling my brother Levi Ray happy birthday. And if you guys watch any of my YouTube videos, his music is my intro and outro of those YouTube videos. And also, my daughter's birthday was yesterday, Lauren. And my prison daughter's birthday was this week. So it was a lot of happy birthday to y'all. Love y'all so much. And Tunch, anything else before we get started on this?
Oh no, let's jump in because we've got an important week next week.
We do have an important week this week, and thank y'all for joining us again. Thank y'all for hitting the like button, tapping the screen on your phone, commenting, all of those wonderful things. I see you, AIC Advocate, formerly known as the Department of Corruptions. We see you. Thank you for joining us. Carrie, we see you. Crystal, Justice, Life's a Journey. Tammy, new subscriber. Welcome in. My sister-in-law's here, Devin. And Niala's here. Happy birthday,
Happy
Niala.
birthday.
Yes, Niala. Diana, we see you. Yeah, love y'all. Love the community here. So the extreme temperatures in Texas prisons. What we know is Texas A&M did a research project a few years ago, and it exposed how dangerous the temperatures already knew are. It exposed what we already knew. having lived in Texas prisons with no air conditioning, with no climate control in the middle of summer. And it showed that some temperatures in the summertime, they were reaching between 110 degrees all the way up to one reported as 149 degrees. Now these were staff recording temperatures. This was their temperature log from TDCJ.
Mhm.
Just an unbelievable, again, validating what we already know. We know in the summer that it's dangerous, that people are getting sick, that the ambulances are coming, that it's hard to breathe. But to have this university do the research showing that, it put some weight behind it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It gave the credibility that, incarcerated people and formerly incarcerated people, our experiences is our expertise, right? Like, but there is an automatic loss of credibility just because we were convicted of an offense, right? So to be able to have researchers as well as respected as Dr. Purdom and Dr. Dixon at Texas A&M, one of the mega schools in in Texas, to be able to back those experiences up with data it has been extremely helpful. Now, has that done it? Has that gotten the temperature control in our prisons yet, Marcy? No, it hasn't.
Absolutely not. It has not. What it's done is given us just a little bit of leverage with legislators, and helped in our advocacy work and things like that. Now, Diana's asking, does the Texas governor not want to fix the extreme high temps issues in prison, or does it take more than just the governor's approval? So it's go ahead, go you answer this, Tunch.
So it's everybody's fault, right? Like everybody has a role here. The state agency, the House, the Senate, the lieutenant governor, and the governor, they all have a role and a responsibility. Some have shown a willingness, others have not, right? The state agency's responsibility is to stand up and demand that money to care for the people that they are responsible for. I have not seen them do that in a way that articulates the danger that their staff and incarcerated people are under. Okay. Second of all, now the House, we had a historic budget. We were swimming in money during the last legislative session. We could have put temperature control in all these prisons, and the House passed a bill that said let's do that, right? It passed a budget. Let's go for it. It got over to the Senate, which the lieutenant governor, right? And I love when y'all are able to attend the stuff that we try to promote about civic engagement and understanding the legislative process, right? Like, because we try to do that education for the people on the inside. The lieutenant governor is the only one that decides when bills come over from the House. He's the one to decide which ones get referred to committee. If he doesn't want it heard, he doesn't refer it, period, the end. If he refers it to a committee, he's open for that bill to move forward. He referred the bill to the Senate Finance Committee, where it died. It never had a hearing. And from what we were hearing from that committee was not no, but hell no. And so we have some political will, and then on some side we do not. And I think, Marcy, it goes back to this old understanding of the heat. We are not talking about comfort. We're not talking about, oh, it's hot and sticky and uncomfortable. I'm really starting to believe that these senators and these people at the state agencies, they don't understand quite. They don't get it. They have this old understanding of what hot is, and that is not the hot we're talking about.
Right. The hot we're talking about is the last summer that I was in prison, the thermometer in my dorm read 136. 136 degrees Fahrenheit. They had it covered with a little piece of electrical tape so we couldn't see it, and we pulled some shenanigans and climbed up. And when we saw that, it was almost hysteria for the ones that had seen it, that number. Because feeling like you are living in that is one thing, knowing that you are being housed in 130-degree temperatures, that's quite another, and I remember thinking, this is why they have this covered. This is why they hide the numbers from us, because we will freak out. When you walk in to the dorm this time of year, you go out to breakfast and it's still dark outside. And in Texas at 4 in the morning, it's hot outside. It's bearable, but the air is fresh. It's the coolest time of the day when after it's been night for a while, after the sun's been down for a while. You step outside, you get that fresh air, you go to the chow hall, you come back, and when you walk back in that dorm, the air is so thick that it's hard to take a breath. You have to mentally tell yourself. I remember literally my brain saying, "Marcy, take a breath. You can breathe in this." Because your instinct is you can't, that it's like a steam room almost. I don't know how to explain. And there are showers in there. So it is humid. It's a hot, humid box. Uh, all of the materials that we use to make our prisons, bricks and concrete, uh, these steel or metal buildings, all of these just hold on to the heat. It's like living in a pizza oven.
Yeah, I mean, Marcy, there is no other way to describe it. It is literally an oven. And we always try to like make this tangible for people out here. Everybody in Texas has parked their car in the middle of a parking lot at Walmart or Target at 5 o'clock in August. Open that door, and that wall of heat that hits you in the face, that is what people are living in and trying to survive in. You know, and you're absolutely right. Like I remember, I can feel it, and I can smell. You can smell the heat. It is this. It it smells like hot concrete and metal, and I can hear the fans, like those fans just blowing hot ass air. And you're walking to the chow hall just sweating and damp in the air in the morning at 4 in the morning, going to breakfast. It's just hot and stale. And it's like I'm dreading when the sun comes up, right? Like, and all you could do was, you know, soak your clothes, lay on the floor in a puddle of water, turn your little fan on, and try to just sleep, and just try to
Just like,
sleep through the worst of
yeah,
it.
just like Thomas says here, you get slapped by the heat when you walk in, just like when you open that car door. And you know how you get in your vehicle, you close the door, and there's just those few seconds before you can roll the windows down and turn the air on. That we don't have that. Like it's like just staying in that heat.
Sleep in
That's
that car.
right.
Sleep and eat in that car, and that is what it is. And Marcy, I can't get in my car. Like, I'll open the door, and as soon as I feel it, I jump in and turn the car because I panic.
Yes, I rode a bus, and the heat was not comparable to as hot as it can get in the summer. But I rode a bus from, where were we? From Philadelphia to New York City, and that bus, the windows didn't open and their AC was busted. And it was hot and it was uncomfortable and sweaty, but just that being contained where you, if I was overheated, I could not have gotten off. I couldn't have opened a window. I couldn't have gotten any air. I couldn't have gotten some ice. I Those things that we do out here when we're working outside or have outdoor sports activities, because life does happen in Texas in the summer, but we have resources out here that incarcerated people do not have. And we have airflow
Right.
everywhere we go. Even when we're in buildings and homes that are unair conditioned out here, we have shade and we have airflow. They don't have those things in the penitentiary. Those buildings are not surrounded by trees.
Right. Well, and you hear people say, oh, there's unhoused people and there's elderly people without access to air conditioning. And I'm not arguing that. What I would say is They don't have restriction of movement. They don't have restriction of visitors. They don't. There are resources somewhere somehow, right? When you are locked in a cement room, you're locked in it. You're locked in it. There is nobody coming to let you out other than the staff. And the staff, most of the time, they're suffering in the heat too. Why would they continue to make rounds in all that uniform and vest and all that other stuff? Everybody's trying to stay cool. And, it is their responsibility to look after the people in their care, but they're hot too.
Well, we were watching them get sick as well. I watched plenty of officers come in. I watched an officer that was running breaks, so in the summer months, staff, they don't spend as much time in the dorms where it's unair conditioned. They stay in the air conditioned areas or the cooler areas of the prison. They're not in the dorm like they're supposed to be. And who can blame them? It's 130 degrees in there, who can, I'm not even faulting them for it actually. But we had an officer, she was running breaks, which meant she was going from dorm to dorm to dorm so that the people in that dorm could get a break. And so she was going outside, coming into a hot dorm, then going outside, coming into a hot dorm. She wasn't getting that respite in between like staff usually does. And she passed out. I mean, she passed out. The ambulance came. She told us days later that it had to do with the heat. I mean, it was just flat out. What we know from my 10 years living in an unclimate controlled prison in Texas, you have at least 10 in an unclimate controlled. I know you have some at Mountain View Patrick O'Daniel unit that was climate controlled. But just from our at least 20 years experience, we have seen hundreds of ambulances come in the summer. I had my sister-in-law visited my brother-in-law in a prison that doesn't have climate control here in Texas, and he told her the ambulance comes every day, and she was shocked. And I said, oh, that's for sure true, because the ambulance came every day during the summer months. Every single day, the ambulance was coming to the prison. Yeah. So that's just not surprising. And then what we also know is people are losing their life, right? Yeah. Every summer. We're seeing it. We saw it while we were in there. We're hearing about it now that we're out here. We're having incarcerated people write us and tell us, and family members write us and tell us. And TDCJ said, no, nobody's died. Nobody died because it got too hot.
There's 41 deaths reported by the Texas Tribune last summer in our Texas prisons. And none of it had anything to do with the heat. You died of other stuff like a heart attack or, Marcy, when I was working at Goodwill, my first summer home, and I thought, well, I've been in prison, so if the girls can do it, I'm going to do it out here in this heat. Who am I to, right? And I pushed myself and I pushed myself, and I kept just drinking a lot of water. And I was hot, right? So I was drinking a lot of water, Gatorade, water. At the end of the day, I felt really ill. Like it was hard to explain. I wasn't having a heat stroke, but I knew that there was something really wrong. I don't even know how to describe it. So I go home. I'm dry heaving. I'm the pain in my stomach, my head, like, what's wrong? I did eat, right? But I get to the hospital. I finally told my dad, I said, I was on a monitor. So there was that debacle getting to the hospital. Something is wrong. I get there and they run tests on me. They said, Miss Toon, you barely have any sodium in your body. You have drank it out. Like you can poison yourself with water, right? Like I had drank so much water and sweated so much so quickly that I had almost depleted all of the sodium in my body. They were like, you would have died from that, right? Like, okay, it's not a heat stroke, but it was directly related to how hot I was. And so.
And if that had happened in the free world, Tunch, your death certificate your autopsy. This is really getting dark, but it would not say, it wouldn't say you died because you got too hot, right? It would say sodium depletion or whatever, right? And so that's how TDCJ is getting around, and yes, covering up heat related deaths. Now you and I and anyone who just heard that story knows that that was because you got too hot. You drank
Right.
too much
It's
because you
common
got too
sense.
hot, right?
And how many girls do we hear from that are like, I'm doing everything I can to cool down? I've drank bottles of water, I've laid in water. There comes a point that you are so hot, there is nothing that you are now at critical, right? Like you can't cool down. And that is happening more and more often. It happened while we were there. It's even hotter, and it's going to continue to happen. And it is ludicrous that the state of Texas, that the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, to avoid accountability and lawsuits, to tell the public and incarcerated people and their families and their staff that none of this has to do with the heat is ludicrous. It's insane. How
They are
dare you?
gaslighting 130 incarcerated 130,000 incarcerated people, and 5 times or 10 times that formerly incarcerated people, and then 10 times, 20 times more than that when you count our families. They are literally just lying to all of our faces, flat out lying.
Right. Well, and Marcy, let's talk about those, the heat mitigation and the heat policies and the, so in this effort to say we're doing something, they have all these policies around, in the summertime you can ask for water and extra showers and ice and respite and like all the um little efforts, I don't know what else to call them, to mitigate the heat, to say, well, this will lessen. What do you personally, as a person that did that much time at Lane Murray, how effective is all the heat policies? Are they implemented? How much access did you have to them? Did they fucking make a difference?
I was locked up when those policies went into place, and they went into place as a direct result of a lawsuit that had to do with one men's prison. When those policies were implemented, let me tell you, they came around, and the paint crew painted the word respite on the schoolhouse, the chapel, medical building, the admin building. And we some of us, me, I'll just say me, some of us, lots of us didn't even know what the word meant. You know what I mean? It was just painted there. And we're like, what is this? What is this? 2 years later, 2 whole summers later, one of the officers said, and I had been there a while. I know a lot of people. I talk a lot to a lot of people. And he said, Simmons, come here. I'm like, God, what is it? You know? And I get over there, and he said, you see all these words, respite? You're supposed to get to go there for air conditioning. When y'all are hot, when you feel overheated. I said, what? He said, yeah, it's policy. I said, are you serious? Like what? And he said, if y'all ever want air conditioning in these prisons, everybody needs to ask for respite. Like that was an officer telling me basically, can't you get these people to ask for respite?
Mhm.
And so we did. We started asking all the time, and not hardly ever getting to go. And if you were in cell block housing, just forget it. First of all, if you were housed in solitary confinement, forget it. That was zero. You were never getting to go. If you were medium custody, they would hold respite maybe at 8 o'clock at night. Like you couldn't ask for it when you felt overheated. Like that wasn't happening. And for us, it was just hit or miss. And then even if they had a respite area, if they had staff available to babysit us in a respite area, you would have it would depend on the officer in your dorm, because you would have to get fully dressed. So now you're already sweating and hot and having a hard time maintaining your sanity, quite frankly, but also just your body to make sure that you're okay. And now you have to put on these horribly hot pants, thick, unbreathable material shirt. So you are fully dressed now. And then you have to put your house in complete compliance, which is against the policy. That's
Right.
not what the policy says,
Right.
right?
Correct.
But you have to have your house in complete compliance. What does that mean? Now your everything has to be just perfect. So now you're going to exert all of that energy to make sure everything in your is just perfect, because you're going to get disciplinary cases. And the disciplinary cases were a whole nother thing, because then if the officers in the respite area, I mean, we had times we had to sit on the floor facing the wall, no talking. That was respite. Sergeant Soria at
Say it.
Dr. Lane
Say it.
Murray unit, Sergeant Soria, the PREA sergeant, when she ran respite, she would play videos. She would play those PREA videos over and over and over and over, like the ones that they do at intake. For those of you who haven't been incarcerated, it's very poor script. It's like a PSA, like a public service announcement type video. And she would put one on and play it on repeat over and over and over. Like it was war. It was war for us to be able to get to go. And they did everything in their power to
Mm-hmm.
keep us from going. Everything that they could to make it as miserable as possible. So, someone asked about the more vulnerable population, elderly, the elderly population. Y'all, the old schools were not going to respite. The 60-year-old women, 70-year-old women, they were not.
Because
They
there's the exposure to the heat. Like, this is what we tried to tell them last year when we had a lady that was in a wheelchair at Lane Murray die from heat related, what we all know and believe to be heat related symptoms. Oh, well, she lived in a temperature controlled housing area. Okay, but if you know Lane Murray and you know she's in a wheelchair, she's going to other places on that unit that are not shaded, that standing outside for commissary, which you don't get access to very much, is outside, right?
pill
Like,
line,
right, pill
pill
line.
line. You're going
There
to
are
stand
other
outside twice a day in the sun, in
direct sun.
direct sun.
So, why would I put myself through trying to access respite for maybe 10 minutes, if you're lucky, 20 minutes, and it's miserable? It's like medical transportation. Y'all make this a miserable trip. People refuse to go to medical and end up with a lot of bad health outcomes. It's the same thing.
We're going to respite one time. So the buildings at Dr. Lane Murray unit, there's a few of the dorms. The K buildings have like a vestibule. So when you go in, there's a little vestibule, and then there's two dorms and the pickets in the middle, right? The vestibule is air conditioned. So they would offer respite there first. Now there's 200 women in this building.
Right.
It's they can have 10 or 15 there, and maybe less. I don't really remember the number, but we're there. We're in the and when it gets to overflow, they're supposed to send us to other areas on the farm, right? So this officer, she just is calling the lieutenant saying, I've got these people for respite. Because policy says they cannot deny it, right? Policy says if they want AC, they can have it. It's available. That's how they're getting away with, hey, we offer them AC. They're allowed to go whenever they want, but we're not. you know so anyway, she calls an ICS and says, I feel like I'm in danger, because she was sitting in that vestibule with all of us. What happens when an officer says they feel like they're in
They're
danger?
coming to get all y'all.
They're coming to get everybody.
Yep.
They're suiting up. They're coming in with their spray in their hand. They've got the camera. I mean, that's what this is why people aren't going. Like even trying to get there, there's so much risk that comes with going. So much getting in trouble, all of these things. Yeah, I mean, the disciplinary cases that they write at respite are off the chain. You can't
Well,
say one word. Can't speak. Now the men, I don't think the men are treated that way.
No,
Guys,
no,
if
no.
y'all are on, if y'all are watching and you did time when they were doing respite, if you've been locked up between about 2017, 18 and now, tell us what they're doing for respite on the guys unit. But I read somewhere for the Wallace Pack unit at least that they had to have chairs at respite. We didn't get no chairs.
No,
Girl,
you're
we
sitting on
was
the
sitting in the
floor, you're
floor.
standing there like, well, and this is again, like, and I think it's really important, like, especially, as we're involved with the lawsuit, as Lioness, as an organizational plaintiff, like, I hope that some of these stories and differences, it just really articulates how differently women suffer. Like, everybody's suffering, but there is part of the population that suffers worse. And then from that population, worse. And I hope that we're able to really show, maybe the men can access respite a little bit better and are not treated like absolute garbage when they go do it. But we were and are and threatened and punished. Let's not talk about like it's summertime, you're allowed to wear your t-shirt and shorts. Why are we wearing this big heavy canvas like uniform all day long at work? And then don't get me started, Marcy, on the wardens that if you go to the day room, you have to be fully dressed, right? So people don't go to the day room because they don't want to get fully dressed because it's uncomfortable and hot. And that is also against the heat directives. And then the water, right? Like, oh, we bring ice around every hour. That does not happen. The ice
There's not
machine
a
is
machine
broke.
big enough. There's not an ice machine big enough to even let that policy happen. Even if they had staff, even if they wanted to, it's impossible for them to make that happen. We're fortunate if we get it 3 times a day. And it's not like we're getting the ice, right? The ice is going in the cooler and we're getting cold water, but that those coolers have to be refilled. So I
Yes,
mean,
I know
the
it.
officers have to manage the refilling. The officers are not, first of all, they're way short staffed. They're overworked and they're not coming in the hot dorm to get us some more water. It's just not
Well,
happening.
this is what they used to do to us at Mountain View and at Riverside. We didn't have an ice crew. So, hey, I need 2 people to come grab this cooler and take it to the kitchen in the middle of the day. Girl, everybody hit, as much as people wanted at least some cold water, it's not going to last long because it's a igloo for 100 women, for 60 women. I am not fixing to get fully fucking dressed to lug this fucking thing up to the kitchen in the heat, stand there forever for them to tell me this is all the ice that we had. Go back to the dorm. No, we would all hide. And the officer would come in there and find people and tell them they had to get up, do it. Right? Like, there was every single part of the heat directive was, I never found any of it. It never made a difference to me, right? Like,
Well,
it
it
never
certainly
made a
wasn't
deeply,
saving lives. It's
right.
not
Like, there's
saving
not this
lives. It's not making people not sick.
deep impact that it's having. It's not, right? Because it's not consistently enforced anyway. But I want to tell y'all a particular heat. Okay, so when we talk about places like parts of Crane Unit that have air conditioning, now Terrace I believe it's still closed down because its roof caved in. But Sycamore and Valley and Reception have air conditioning, and then of course Mountain View had air conditioning. Marcy, if you want to talk about heat, because none of those dorms that are air conditioned have fans. Like, so the big fans that the dorms have, industrial fans, there is none of that. And the windows are shut because you'll burn out the air conditioning if you have, right? Well, it consistently breaks, especially at Crane. You talk about stifling fucking heat. Live in a building that was not made for ventilation, that was made for an air conditioned unit, and the air condition goes out for days. You literally, you're suffocating. period. And those girls at Lane Murray down in AdSeg, where they put this some temperature control down there, and we were very excited for that. Thank God. But it doesn't work consistently. And they've had their windows shut. So I can only imagine. I know what that type of heat feels like. It is being in the car with the windows rolled all the way up. At least the other dorms, the window is rolled down for some type of movement of air, but this is closed in with no movement of air.
It's a coffin. It's a concrete
Yes. Mm-hmm.
coffin, and people are losing their lives to that. I and last summer, and it was really hotter last summer than it is this year. And I thought we were making great progress when they put the temporary units in on the Dr. Lane Murray unit, and uh, it wasn't enough, right? Because it wasn't every unit, but they haven't done that. They haven't even thought about doing that. They're they don't care. I just I think that it just speaks to the systemic issues, the borderline issues, the culture of oppression, this idea that incarcerated lives are less than, that the value of their life is not there is no value. I think it's just this whole idea, and it's a statewide issue. When you said, like, who's responsible, when we were talking about who's responsible, I thought, well, us too. We are too. We are too. The public is too, because our tax dollars pay for this prison industrial complex in our state, and they are tasked with taking care of human lives, and they're not doing it, and no one is holding them accountable.
Well, and not to
And
mention, Marcy, that a lot of people, y'all better get you some political education. And I'm not here to tell you who to vote for or how to vote, but you need you some political education, because I've, you know, people of a certain political persuasion are shocked when their politician and the people they voted for do not stand up for incarcerated people because their husband is locked up, or they themselves, usually it's their husband or their boyfriend, and they're shocked that, well, I just thought my party and my political party, this was not what I believed and was presented, and because I care about this other party issue. I said, well, you got to pick, right? Like, if you're voting for that political party based on issues like reproductive health care that you don't believe in, then guess what, baby? You're going to have to ride that horse, because they are not the party that cares about criminal justice, prison abolition work. They're not. They believe that some people belong in prisons and should be punished until they're dead. And that is the truth. Do your political education. And we are responsible for the people that are in office. And so you better do your political education if you care about criminal justice issues, of who's on the right side of that, who's on the side that is speaking for you. And if you're holding on to other issues, well, then I guess you got to pick which one is more important to you. I don't know. I don't know what to tell people in regards to that.
right. I just well, what can we do? So we have people that are watching this episode right now thinking, first of all, we have some people that are hearing for the very first time that 70,000 plus people are in Texas are incarcerated in non-climate control facilities, and that the temperatures are like my dorm, my last summer, 136 degrees, and that people are dying, and that there are laws in this state protecting animals but not humans, you know.
Protecting
So
people in Texas jails. Jail
yes.
standards maintain that temperatures have to be 65 to 85 degrees in every county jail in this state.
So what can people do, Tunch? What can they do? If
Well,
they feel is inhumane, if they feel that all human life is valuable and people should be treated not just humanely, but This is not even about humane temperatures. We're not even talking about we're just talking about keeping people alive, keeping people from getting sick. We just want safe temperatures. What can people do?
Well, for sure, they need to contact their legislators, and you need to do that political education to understand, does your legislator speak your values? You need to look at the history of how they voted. You need to see what they're doing for you, and you need to apply pressure as a constituent, right? Like, hey, especially if you voted for them, right? Like the pressure needs to go there. The Senate Finance Committee, you need to look and see, you need to educate yourself how the system works, how democracy works. I know that sometimes it can feel like it's hopeless, and in Texas it can feel really rough, but you have to participate. You can't sit on the sidelines and cry and bitch about stuff and not participate. And the perfection is the enemy of good. I think I've said that right. So there's a lot of stuff in the party that I support, and the political sway that I have, that there are things that I don't always agree with or like, but I'm going to tell you something. The issues that matter to me the most, I'm a ride with them. I'm a ride with them. Right? So you really have to evaluate, what are your most important values? Do you understand politics? Do you understand who's in those buildings making those decisions? And you have to go vote. And you have to tell them what you think and feel, period. And you have to mean it, and you have to show up in a real, tangible way, Marcy.
Jose says to keep doing what we're doing. We're having discussions like this. We're spreading awareness, podcasts like this. If you're watching and you're hearing something that you've heard from the first time, or you're surprised, share that with your family, with your circle. People might not know. People need to know. And he also said a moment ago that it's the same conversation. We're still hearing. He's been home for 12 years. And we're still hearing story after story of people losing their lives because of the heat. And sometimes I do this little giggle when I'm trying to process insanity. It seems so that's what that giggle is. It's no joking matter, right? It's no joking matter. And so, yeah, it is just story after story. But I think that change starts with conversations at the base level, right? When you see something on social media, share it, interact with it. If you see a post talking about changes that you promote, help that post reach more people,
Do
right?
something. Do something. You can't just, it's not good enough anymore just to be upset about shit.
Right.
You have to participate. I remember, and I tell this story as to try to be lighthearted, but I had a coworker when I worked at AIDS Foundation Houston, and the we just had the presidential election, and everybody was excited, and her mom called her, and she was real funny, and she was like, yeah, well, yeah, we did it. We did it without you, Mom, because the world spoke without you. And I was like, damn. But I never forgot that her mom would call and complain to her about stuff. And she would say, girl, I don't want to hear it. The world spoke without you. You cannot be sitting on the sidelines just wringing your hands upset about anything anymore. You get in and you do something. And maybe you're at a place that I can't go to the Capitol. Okay, well, there's other ways that you can submit comments online. There's emails, there's letters. I do, for all my dad's craziness, Marcy. Do you know what I remember when I was younger? I remember going in his office because I was always digging through his stuff. And on his desk was very old school. He had a typewriter. He typed a letter to, I don't remember what representative it was, but it said senator. And he mailed it. And I remember asking him about it. My dad did that kind of stuff all the time, right? And it impressed me even when I was younger that, like, no, you have to participate. And if you don't want it, you're not feeling comfortable with that yet, like Marcy said, you support the organizations that are boots on the ground. Right? Because a lot of these organizations like ours, baby, we live off of
A hope and a
donation,
prayer, a
hope
hope
and
and
a
a
prayer.
prayer, and the change in the couch. Let's just be
Right.
real raw. We all work other jobs,
Right.
and we finance ourselves, and these little stars y'all send me on my social media, I appreciate y'all. That helps me gas money get to and
That's
from
gas
Austin.
money. You
Yes.
you think running up and down from Marcy lives with, and I'm going to use you as an example. Marcy lives with and cares for her grandmother and takes care of two children, her and her wife. They live all the way up in Weatherford, outside of DFW. Drives 3 hours to Austin to participate at the Capitol or participate in events all across the state, right? That costs money. That's gas money. We pile up in each other's rooms, apartments. Girl, can you cash at me $20 for gas? Like, we are living literally on a wing and a prayer most of the time. If you can help like that, or not just our organization, but other organizations like the Right Cause Urban Youth Conservation, right? All of us are doing the work that we're led to. If you are not ready to get up there and testify or come to an event, you can share social media, you can write there are all kinds of things. You have to do something. You have to do something.
Tunch, we cannot let this episode go by without talking about the new warden on Lane Murray. I don't even know her name. Do you know her name?
We're gonna
I
look
don't
at it
even
right
know
now.
yet.
Hold on. It's
So
not.
she took, they issue coats, and no, nobody's wearing their coat. Nobody. Let me just say this, in 10 years of my incarceration, 20 years in Tucci's incarceration, nobody wore their coat in the summer. We did use it for a pillow. It was our pillow in the summertime. And she took their blankets. And what she told them was, I'm taking these because y'all are wrapping up in them to make your body temperature go up
What in the
and cause,
fuck?
cause yourself to get sick. Does she believe this?
She believes that.
Where
She
did she come
believes that.
from?
She
Did
came
she
from
come
Hobby,
from
honey.
what? They switched them out?
Yes, they switched them out.
So at Hobby, a unit that the temperatures are just as extreme as the Dr. Lane Murray unit, where they are calling the ambulances, where she is seeing her staff and her incarcerated family. Like I'm what? Can we show this on
Yeah, why
stream?
not?
Okay.
Okay. So her name is. I'm gonna pull it tighter here.
Yeah.
All right, there's the phone number, y'all. Cogger, Coger. There's the
Golly.
information for Lane Murray. Y'all give her a call. Give Region a call. I'm gonna name drop again, and I know you're gonna let me do it because I'm a fangirl of Christy Puckett.
Yes.
When we were at the Clean Slate, and we were talking about, a lot of times society, especially a group of women, oh, you have to fit this box, you have to advocate this way, you can't say certain things. She said, what people in power in the state is doing to us, is that reasonable? Is it reasonable? And we were like, hell no. She goes, then why in the world would our response and our tactics be reasonable to something that is unreasonable? Right? Like, it has to meet the challenge. And so I don't know if if you're not going to do the right thing when we politely ask, I don't know what else to do. And we're BPD girls. We got borderline personality disorder through trauma, rooted in trauma. And the only way we knew to get our needs met was to escalate. So if you're not going to listen to reason and you're going to be unreasonable, then we'll just have people calling you all day. We'll have people come up there, right? Like, what more can we do to get you to listen? And pure fucking hogwash bullshit to say people are wrapping themselves up in blankets to purposely get hot and overheated and sick so they don't have to go to work or because they want to prove TDCJ's doing something. Give me what a joke.
We are in survivor mode. Our bodies in that temperature from the end of May to the middle of September, It's all you can do just to mentally survive, but your whole body is in such a survivor mode, constantly trying to stay cool, that there's no,
I'm gonna
yeah.
wrap myself up. Those blankets are made of wool. Girl, I would never. I would break my foot before I did something like that to get out of work.
But what are those blankets good for in the summertime? Well, our bunks are metal, and guess what? In a
Hot.
metal bunk that's 130, it's in a 130-degree cell, it's hot to the touch. So if you want to sit on your bunk, we would fold that wool blanket up and sit on the wool blanket.
Right.
Or if you're on your cycle, you would sit on that blanket so that you're not directly on the metal. You would put it on your floor to sit, or maybe use it as an exercise mat instead of being on the
Right.
direct concrete. You know,
It,
we go ahead. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just other ways to harass us. And I know maybe even from the outside world, it's like, well, golly, like I can understand that's crazy and fucked up, but like, boy, y'all are really angry about it. It is constant with us. It is constant ways to fuck with us. And those little ways were big things to us, right? Like, I don't want to sit on a hot, burning ass metal bed. I don't want to sit on this plastic mattress. It's hot and sticky. Now, the blanket is not comfy. But if you put the blanket down and you wrap a sheet over it, then you have a smooth, soft surface to sit on. So give me a break. And I'm tired of it, Marcy. And I'm all about diplomacy and I'm all about managing professionalism, but I really value what Christy taught me. And it's in order for us to combat unreasonable shit, then you cannot be reasonable about it.
And I don't want to see, I don't want people to think that I'm just like picking on Dr. Lane Murray unit today, picking on this warden, picking on their staff. It is where I did my time. But so I hear more from that unit is what I'm trying to say. My people
Well,
are on that
it happens
unit.
to
That's where
all
I
of it.
did. Right.
All of the units. This
Right.
happened at Henley. This happens at Plain State. It happened at Mountain View. We would battle back and forth. These are the things that matter to us that make our lives a little bit more manageable. And the nerve of you to say that we were wrapping ourselves up in blankets and jackets to overheat ourselves is absolute ludicrous.
It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. And we have just a couple more minutes.
Now, I want to real quickly though, if y'all don't follow us on our social media, you need to. I posted a denial, right? Because we're also battling mailroom stuff, right? Like as the women are trying to tell us heat deaths, sexual abuse from the staff, as they're trying to get information to us, we more and more see denied, 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 denied. And so I took a picture of one of the denial forms that someone incarcerated wanted to share some information with us about some staff behavior. And she gave us the names and they retracted it and refused to let us have it. This is another effort to control the narrative and the flow of information to be able to report stuff to the outside world. There is no mailroom policy that says that you can't put staff members' names in your mail. There is not. There is not. And I'm tired of it and I'm getting really, really fucking angry about it because we are at a place where what is happening to the women and the men inside of our prisons, we have to know. And the control and the flow of information, and to do it blatantly, Marcy, you've called Lane Murray with
Yes,
Miss
multiple
Brown,
times.
Miss Brown, that we knew that when we were incarcerated, these were made up rules that they did to us. I don't know if they make up mailroom rules with the men. They would blatantly put this shit on paper and we would see that it was not a policy, it wasn't a rule, but we had nobody on the outside to call and throw a fit. Well, now they do. And we're not going to let up the gas about this mailroom shit. I just wanted to add that. So please go share it. Go look at it on our social media. Marcy, tell them about the lawsuit date and the vigil.
Okay, so lawsuit date. You just threw that out there. Is it the 31st?
I believe it is. It's next week. from the
I just looked the night before at my calendar. I
I
don't know
know
what
how
I'm
it
doing
is.
from one day to the next. It's next week on Tuesday. Is that the 31st?
The
Somebody help me
30th
out.
and the 31st and the
And the
1st. It
1st. So it
it
starts
might
the
be
30th.
yeah.
It starts Tuesday the 30th, and this is the lawsuit. Lioness Justice Impacted Women's Alliance is an organizational partner. We are asking the courts to require TDCJ to stop housing humans in dangerous and deadly temperatures. We're asking for the same policies that protect incarcerated people in Texas jails, which is temperatures between 65 and 85. Again, not comfort, just safety. Nobody's comfortable in 84 degrees in Texas, believe me. But you are safe. And that's what we're asking for, safe temperatures. Now, this is the preliminary injunction. And what this is, because we know that lawsuits can go on for years and years. And so the lawyers have got this preliminary injunction, which it was granted to hold a hearing saying, hey, while we're fighting this, people are dying. Can we stop the people from dying while we're fighting this lawsuit? And how do we do that? Safe
Marcy will
temperatures.
be, I believe, testifying. There's going to be a lot of people testifying during these hearings. So you are more than welcome to come to Austin. It will be at the federal courthouse in Austin, starting at 9. That's all the information we have currently. But if you stay up to date with our social media, with Linus and certainly Marcy's personal pages, um, we'll keep y'all as informed as it happens. And then tell them about the vigil.
We are having a prayer/candlelight vigil in Gatesville, and it is on, did you look up the date? I just told you.
It's
I just
August 3rd. August
August 3rd.
3rd.
Thank you. That's a Saturday night in Gatesville, Texas, at the courthouse, August 3rd, 8 p.m. Representative Sherman is going to be giving opening remarks. Rev Joe, who you all might know from TikTok and from her church in Austin, she is going to be offering a prayer. And we are going to have families and loved ones, formerly incarcerated people. Honoring the, we'll be honoring, we'll be, I don't even know how to say it. We're going to stand in solidarity with the incarcerated Texans and staff that are currently in Texas prisons enduring these dangerous temperatures. And we will be honoring and remembering the numerous lives that have been lost because the state does not require safe temperatures in our prisons,
Right.
and we'll be honoring the victims.
So if you would like to join us on August 3rd, 8 p.m. In Gatesville, Texas, at their courthouse, it's pretty easy to look up, but you can follow our social media. We will all be there. If it's just a handful or a crowd, it doesn't matter. We're going to be there, and we're going to, make sure the incarcerated. We chose Gatesville not just because the majority of us were incarcerated there. It is the birthplace of youth injustice. It has a long history, and was built on carceral settings. And what is so, I don't know, Marcy, surprising is that the people of Gatesville are very kind, and they often do not know what their own loved ones endure who work in the prisons. That's
Right.
what we found out very quickly going to that community and talking to folks. That the same way we hid stuff from our loved ones, the officers and staff often hide what happens in those prisons to them from their own loved ones. So it'll be a community event, just to be, like Marcy said, just holding space for each other in this really difficult time of year. It's got to end. I don't want this to be an annual thing, right? This shouldn't turn into an annual thing. We need
Right.
to stop this from happening.
8 p.m. August 3rd, Gatesville. Check out our social media pages for more details. It's a wrap. We're over our time. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. We truly do love you. We love our community here. This is our favorite night of the week. This was a little bit of a heavier subject, and we appreciate you all. Please take care of yourselves. Say it, Tunch. What else do you have to add at 5 minutes after the hour?
5 minutes after the hour, we're hoping to get Justin on here to talk about prison abolition work. So hopefully maybe next week or the week after that, I need to get in touch with him. But when we talk about conditions of confinement and how horrible they are, it really kind of really links into our conversation about why we are prison abolitionists. One of the many reasons, but look forward to that, and look forward to Marcy is going to stream our footage and stuff from the workshop in Colorado. Okay, I'm
Yes,
done.
most definitely. So thank y'all for hitting that like button, all of the good things. Share this live. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all the support and love. You guys give our Facebook page follow on the Rec Yard on Facebook, and we'll get off of Auntie and them social media soon and head over to Instagram. Love you all so much, and we will see you same time, same place next week.
Out with us on the Rec Yard Women's Prison Podcast.